Hello friends. What happens when the deeply emotional soul of a Cancer is fused with the bold, high-energy spirit of the Rooster? You get one of the most fascinating human cocktails in the zodiac Chinese astrology crossover, the Cancer born in the year of the Rooster. This person is a paradox wrapped in charm, gentle but assertive, nurturing yet fiercely independent, cautious but flamboyantly confident. The Cancer Rooster has a heart that beats to the rhythm of deep emotional waters but also a voice that crows to be heard at sunrise. Let's dive into the complex, vibrant, and at times contradictory world of these uniquely wired individuals. Love, the soft power of passion. At first glance, loving a Cancer Rooster might feel like approaching a complex puzzle. They wear the confident feathers of the rooster with pride, bold in voice, sharp in observation, and often drawing attention without trying. But behind that outward flair lies a deeply sensitive Cancerian heart, soft as sea foam and quietly yearning for connection that transcends the superficial. This fusion of expressive bravado and internal tenderness creates a lover who is not only passionate but profoundly intuitive, someone who will read between the lines of your texts and memorize the inflection in your voice when you say, "I'm fine, but aren't." What sets a Cancer Rooster apart in love is their remarkable emotional memory. They don't just love in the present, they love in layers. Every small gesture, every shared secret, every late-night conversation becomes part of a growing archive of affection they constantly revisit. It's not unusual for them to reference things you said 6 months ago or surprise you with a gift you casually mentioned once in passing. This isn't manipulation, it's devotion. They're building a personalized love map, and you are the centerpiece. Falling in love with a Cancer Rooster is not a light affair. It's a slow burn fire that gathers heat with time. They often hesitate at the beginning, testing emotional waters like a cautious crab approaching the shoreline. They might appear aloof or overly analytical, not because they're unsure of you, but because they're sure of how deeply they could fall. Once committed, they don't just open their heart, they throw open the gates. Love becomes a commitment to nurture, defend, and protect the emotional sanctuary they share with you. Their affection is unwavering, sometimes to the point of being overwhelming. But to them, loving halfway is simply not an option. When it comes to romance, they are true curators of atmosphere and feeling. Their rooster side thrives on the theatrical, candlelit dinners, handwritten letters, perfectly curated playlists, spontaneous weekend getaways. They want their love to feel like a movie, but one grounded in emotional truth, not fantasy. And the Cancer in them ensures that the sparkle never overshadows sincerity. If they bring flowers, it's not from obligation, it's because they noticed you were having a tough week and remembered how peonies remind you of your grandmother. Emotionally, they crave stability and reassurance. Because they give so much, they expect depth and consistency in return. They'll never be content with surface-level conversations or occasional texts. They want to know how your day went, what's stressing you out, what your dreams looked like last night. Their curiosity about your inner world is constant and genuine. In many ways, loving a Cancer Rooster feels like being closely observed, but not in a critical sense. It's more like being studied by someone who wants to understand every shade of your soul so they can love you more accurately. But with such emotional intensity comes a price, vulnerability. If hurt, they don't lash out immediately. They internalize, they brood, they retreat into their shell, and when they emerge, it's often with a memory of every slight you might have forgotten. Forgiveness is possible, but forgetting? Not likely. They don't hold grudges to punish you, they do it to protect themselves. They remember pain because they love deeply, and the depth of their love mirrors the depth of their wounds. In physical intimacy, their connection is profoundly emotional. They need to feel emotionally safe before they can truly open up physically. For them, sex is an extension of trust, not a substitute for it. And once that trust is in place, they become generous, passionate lovers who aim not just to please but to connect. Think touch that feels like communication, kisses that say things they can't put into words, and a rhythm that intuitively matches yours. They may not be the most experimental, but they're deeply attentive, and what they lack in wild spontaneity, they make up for in emotional depth and sensual sincerity. Perhaps one of the most beautiful aspects of a Cancer rooster's love is their long-term vision. They don't see relationships as destinations but as gardens to be cultivated. They will water your soul, pull the weeds of misunderstanding, and plant seeds of shared dreams. They're in it for the seasons, not the moment. But they expect reciprocity, emotional labor, presence, vulnerability. If they feel like they're doing all the work, their frustration will show. And though they may not always verbalize their dissatisfaction at first, you'll feel the emotional distance when it begins to grow. Communication with them is a tightrope walk between sensitivity and clarity. They appreciate honesty but detest cruelty. They want transparency, but not if it's cold. If you learn to speak their emotional language, softness laced with sincerity, they'll open up in ways few others ever will. And when they feel truly seen, their love becomes transformational. They'll lift you, support you, fight for you, and never let you walk alone. Ultimately, to be loved by a Cancer rooster is to be wrapped in a devotion that is both fierce and fragile. They are not perfect partners, but they are profound ones. They will challenge your understanding of love, not with grand declarations alone, but with 100 quiet moments that remind you, love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice made daily, in 1,000 subtle ways. And they choose you, fiercely, relentlessly, forever. Marriage, loyalty with a loud alarm clock. Being married to a Cancer rooster is like living in a house with thick walls, cozy lighting, and an occasional earthquake drill. The foundation is solid, built from devotion, mutual goals, and deep emotional investment, but life inside is never dull. These individuals don't just enter marriage, they commit to it with every fiber of their being. They see the union as sacred, a bond that is not just romantic but spiritual and practical. They want the marriage to work because, to them, love isn't fleeting. It's a lifelong agreement to build something beautiful and strong. And they intend to keep that promise, even if it means dragging you through some emotionally noisy renovations along the way. They are the type who dream of the full picture, shared routines, cozy traditions, and raising children in a loving, structured home filled with meaning. Sunday brunches, birthday surprises, anniversary trips, these aren't just romantic gestures, they're rituals. And for the Cancer rooster, rituals are the emotional glue of marriage. But this isn't a passive fantasy. They put in the work. They'll research parenting techniques, plan budget spreadsheets, organize chore charts, and still remember your mom's favorite dessert. They want a household that runs well because it reflects the quality of the love that holds it together. Now, here's where it gets spicy. The rooster side brings drama, but not the chaos kind. It's more like passionate disagreement mixed with unexpected honesty. You might be enjoying a perfectly peaceful breakfast and suddenly hear, "We need to talk about the way you load the dishwasher, it's driving me nuts." While this might feel over the top to more laid-back signs, this is the rooster's way of keeping the relationship tuned. They don't bottle things up. Instead, they believe in fixing problems in real time. Emotional avoidance is their version of a nightmare. Expect frequent State of the Union check-ins, spontaneous debates about everything from home decor to parenting styles, and the occasional flare-up when they feel unheard. But there's love underneath every outburst. They're not trying to tear things down. They're trying to build deeper clarity. And yet, for all their fire, their loyalty runs even deeper. When a Cancer rooster says, "I do," they mean it in the deepest possible way. They don't just marry you, they invest in you. Your dreams become their dreams. Your pain becomes their concern. Your victories, their joy. They show up for the hard conversations. They stay through the storms. Even when things get rocky, and they often will, they'll hang on, believing that anything worth having is worth fighting for. Sometimes, they'll hold on too long, even when things get unhealthy, because letting go feels like failure, and failure is their biggest emotional fear. However, their loyalty comes with a flip side. Betrayal, emotional, physical, or spiritual, is a hard stop. This isn't a couple who will quietly rebuild trust after infidelity or major deception. The Cancer side gets wounded, the rooster side gets outraged, and the combination is catastrophic. They may cry, shout, retreat, or disappear altogether. And if they leave, there's often no second chance. Loyalty given is expected in return, and when that balance breaks, the entire structure of the marriage can collapse overnight. But when both partners are aligned, emotionally available, honest, committed, marriage with a Cancer Rooster can feel like a team sport played at the championship level. They're organizers and nurturers, motivators and healers. They will remind you of your goals when you forget them. They'll help you get there, often by sheer force of will. They believe in marriage as a container for personal growth, shared vision, and emotional safety. They're the spouse who sends you TED Talks about parenting, books about communication, and memes about aging together. They want to be the old couple still holding hands at the grocery store. And they'll work for it, every single day. They do best with a partner who can balance them out, someone emotionally intelligent but not easily shaken. Someone who listens, yes, but who also speaks up. Someone who can sit through an argument without turning it into war. And ideally, someone who shares their appreciation for routine, family structure, and lifelong commitment. In return, the Cancer Rooster will offer unwavering support, emotional availability, fierce protection, and a dedication to shared happiness that goes far beyond the surface. Marriage with a Cancer Rooster isn't always quiet, but it is meaningful. It's where passion meets planning, where domestic life is both cozy and intense. Where love is not just felt but proven, again and again, in words, in actions, and in every little decision made together. Sex. Emotional depth meets performative fire. With a Cancer Rooster, sex is never just sex. It's a multi-dimensional experience, equal parts emotional communion and private stage performance. It starts long before anyone gets undressed. For them, intimacy is something you build with glances, gestures, and emotional resonance that crackles beneath the surface. Every touch, every sigh, every moment shared is steeped in meaning. They crave not just physical closeness, but soul-to-soul connection, one that lingers far beyond the bedroom. They don't just want your body, they want your attention, your trust, your vulnerabilities, and your willingness to get lost with them in the emotional labyrinth of passion. At the heart of their sexuality is an intense desire for fusion. The Cancer in them seeks emotional depth, the Rooster demands expression and flair. Combined, they become lovers who choreograph their intimacy like a symphony, equal parts heartfelt and thrilling. They're the ones who light candles not just for mood, but to create a sacred atmosphere. Who build playlists that crescendo at just the right moment. Who plan surprises that feel cinematic. They seduce with words, with ambiance, with the kind of detailed awareness that makes their partners feel seen and desired, not just physically, but existentially. Foreplay, for them, isn't optional, it's essential. In fact, the hours before sex can be just as erotic as the act itself. A slow, charged look across the table, a whispered comment in the hallway, a lingering touch as you pass by. They feed on anticipation. They enjoy the mental striptease almost as much as the physical one. Cancer Roosters understand the art of teasing without cruelty, of drawing out desire like a violin string held just before the break. They're patient lovers, not because they're unsure, but because they're building something layered and lasting. But don't mistake emotional depth for predictability. When trust is high, Cancer Roosters unleash a wild, surprising edge that might catch even their closest partner off guard. That's the Rooster coming to play, audacious, uninhibited, and proudly confident in their ability to please. Once they feel safe, they become adventurous, not necessarily in a wild kink-fest way, though they're not closed to that, but more in a let's explore what makes us both feel alive kind of way. They'll try new things, not for novelty alone, but as a means of deepening connection and breaking routine. They hate repetition in bed. Sex should evolve, mirror the changes in the relationship, and always feel like a reflection of this moment, not yesterday's script. Cancer Roosters are also hyper-attuned to their partner's energy. They pick up on body language, subtle shifts in breath, tension in touch. They notice when something feels off, and they'll stop to check in. Not because they're insecure, but because emotional consent is as vital to them as physical consent. They need to know you're with them, emotionally present, willing, open. If you're distracted, disconnected, or emotionally unavailable, they feel it instantly. And it can shut them down completely. They don't do well with just physical. Casual intimacy, unless it's layered with trust, tends to leave them feeling hollow. Aftercare? It's not even a question. They'll hold you, talk to you, run their fingers through your hair, ask how you're feeling. Sex doesn't end with climax for a Cancer rooster. It continues in the moments after, when emotions are raw and open. They believe that the way you treat someone after sex reveals the real depth of the bond. So don't expect them to roll over and fall asleep. Expect a deep conversation, shared laughter, emotional checking in, or maybe just a long, quiet cuddle under soft lighting. They live for these moments, the stillness, the connection, the affirmation that intimacy wasn't just an act, but a shared emotional ritual. And yet, for all their emotional nuance, Cancer roosters can surprise you with how bold they can be. Their rooster pride kicks in behind closed doors. They want to impress. They want to be memorable. They care deeply about your pleasure, and they'll learn every detail of what makes you tick, then deliver it with style. They're also not shy about expressing their own desires once trust is established. They communicate what they want, not with bluntness, but with a mix of passion and politeness that makes their requests feel more like invitations than demands. They are givers, no doubt, but they do expect reciprocation. Not just physically, but emotionally. If you treat sex as a task or obligation, they'll feel it. If you go through the motions without presence, they'll retreat. Emotional authenticity is their biggest turn-on. They don't need you to perform, they need you to be there. In mind, body, and spirit. Ultimately, sex with a Cancer rooster is an act of devotion. It's not about numbers or frequency, it's about meaning. It's about creating a shared emotional landscape, building trust through touch, and celebrating the bond between two souls with bodies as the instrument. They aren't looking for just a lover. They want a co-conspirator in passion, someone who values depth over thrill, vulnerability over conquest. With them, physical intimacy becomes art. Connection becomes ritual, and love becomes something you can feel, long after the lights go out. Friendship, the fierce protector. Friendship with a Cancer rooster is not a casual affair, it's a pact. A sacred bond sealed with loyalty, emotion, and maybe a shared late-night snack or three. These individuals treat their friendships with the same gravity most people reserve for romantic partnerships. You're not just a friend to them. You're family, your inner circle, you're someone whose well-being becomes part of their personal mission. They'll remember your favorite coffee order, check in on your mental health during Mercury retrograde, and defend you like a lion if anyone dares to wrong you. Friendship is a fierce, lived-in space for them, and once you're inside it, they don't let go easily. They show up when it counts, and even when it doesn't. A rough day at work? Expect a voicemail and a funny meme. Going through a breakup? They'll arrive with takeout, tissues, and a playlist titled, "You Deserve Better." Their Cancer side is deeply intuitive, able to sense when something's off before you say a word. Their rooster side springs into action, ready to fix it or, at the very least, offer fiery motivational speeches while plotting your emotional comeback. They're not the friends who wait for an invitation to care. They act instinctively, passionately, and with a level of involvement that can feel both comforting and overwhelming. What makes their friendship unique is the high standard they apply to it. Cancer roosters expect the same energy they give. Loyalty is non-negotiable, honesty is essential, emotional depth is required. Surface-level friendships or half-hearted commitments won't last long with them. They don't have the patience for maybe friends. If you disappear for weeks with no explanation, if your support feels performative, if you betray their trust even slightly, they feel it like a personal earthquake. And they will not suffer in silence. Their rooster nature demands clarity, while their Cancer heart keeps score quietly until it becomes too heavy to bear. They're also the friend who won't just listen passively. They'll engage, respond, challenge. If you say something out of line, expect to be called out, lovingly but clearly. Their honesty is rarely sugar-coated, and sometimes their words sting. But their intention is never to hurt, it's to help. They don't do fake niceties. If you're spiraling, they'll tell you. If you're self-sabotaging, they'll call it out. If they think you're selling yourself short, expect a lecture wrapped in warmth and fire. Their truth may not always land softly, but it's almost always exactly what you needed to hear. Emotionally, they are all in. They want deep talks, shared vulnerability, mutual growth. A night with a Cancer Rooster friend might start with jokes and end with a conversation about childhood wounds, unspoken dreams, and why your last relationship didn't feel quite right. They believe that true friendship means knowing each other beyond the mask, and they are masters at peeling it back. They create emotional space that feels safe but also demands authenticity. And if you're not ready for that level of intimacy, you might find their intensity overwhelming. But for those who crave real connection, it's nothing short of magic. They're generous with their time and energy, but it comes with boundaries. Don't mistake their caregiving nature for a doormat mentality. The Cancer Rooster will give endlessly, but if they sense they're being used or taken for granted, the emotional walls go up fast. They'll retreat, assess, and if necessary, remove you from their life with surgical precision. It won't be messy. It'll be clean, final, and sometimes shockingly fast. One day you're in, the next day, radio silence. Not because they don't care, but because betrayal, even in the smallest dose, is deeply destabilizing for them. Loyalty isn't just a preference. It's their emotional currency. They also value growth, and they expect their friendships to evolve with time. They're not fans of people who stay stuck in patterns or drama loops. If you're not working on yourself, if you resist change, if you refuse to take accountability, they'll lose patience. Cancer Roosters believe in rising together. They want to celebrate wins, process losses, and share wisdom along the way. They're the friend who'll send you books, podcasts, and unsolicited TED Talk recommendations, because they see potential in you, and they want to help pull it out. In group settings, they're often the glue, the organizer, the memory keeper, the one making sure everyone's birthday is remembered and every friend feels included. But they also prefer small, tight-knit circles over large, chaotic gatherings. They choose quality over quantity. 2 deep friendships mean more to them than 20 surface ones. And once they trust you, you'll find yourself with a permanent seat at their emotional table. A seat they will defend, decorate, and polish with care. In the end, having a Cancer Rooster as a friend means never being alone in the dark. It means having someone who will fight for you even when you've stopped fighting for yourself. It means getting a protector, a cheerleader, a therapist, and a comedian all in one. It means being loved loudly, honestly, and without conditions, until or unless you break that sacred trust. And if you manage to keep that trust, you've got a friend for life. Business, the empathetic CEO. In the world of business, the Cancer Rooster is a rare breed, a heart-led visionary with a laser-focused drive for success. They aren't in the game for fame or quick wins, they're playing the long game. They show up early, stay late, and think 5 moves ahead, not just because they want to win, but because they want their work to matter. This is someone who blends emotional intelligence with tactical discipline, creating a leadership style that is both nurturing and no-nonsense. You'll see them mentoring junior staff in the break room at 8 a.m., then leading a high-stakes pitch with fierce confidence by noon. They are just as comfortable wiping someone's tears as they are rewriting a failing strategy. What gives them their edge is the seamless fusion of Cancer's emotional sensitivity and the Rooster's tireless ambition. Cancer gives them radar-level empathy. They know how people feel before words are spoken. This makes them excellent at conflict resolution, team building, and cultural leadership. The Rooster, on the other hand, brings precision, pride, and an insatiable hunger for excellence. Together, this makes them managers who aren't just effective, but deeply respected. They won't just tell you what to do, they'll show you how to do it better. They coach, they push, they uplift, and yes, they hold people accountable with an intensity that's impossible to ignore. Cancer Roosters are not content being cogs in someone else's machine, they're driven to build their own. They often thrive in entrepreneurial spaces, where their vision and work ethic can flourish without limits. Whether it's launching a startup, running a family business, or leading within a corporate ecosystem, they bring the same level of emotional investment. They don't just want to lead projects, they want to create impact. They see every task, every team member, every goal as part of a larger mission. And that mission usually includes leaving something behind. A brand that lasts, a team that grows, a legacy that speaks even after they've stepped away. Their approach to leadership is unique in its balance. They are deeply empathetic leaders. Cancer's nurturing nature ensures they take the time to listen, to understand, to truly support their people. They care about burnout, morale, and team dynamics. If someone's off their game, they won't just reprimand, they'll ask why. Is it burnout? Is it personal? Is something in the workflow broken? They go beneath the surface, because they know that when you take care of people, performance naturally follows. But don't confuse that empathy with softness. Their rooster pride holds everyone, including themselves, to high standards. They have no tolerance for laziness, excuses, or passive complaining. If you're not pulling your weight, expect to be called out, directly, maybe even publicly. They believe in personal responsibility and leading by example. In partnerships, the Cancer Rooster is loyal but firm. They expect mutual respect, trust, and shared ambition. They'll commit 110%, but only if they feel their voice is being heard and their efforts are valued. Their rooster side doesn't do well in subordinate roles unless there's a strong emotional bond or shared vision. Ideally, they want to be in the driver's seat, or at least treated like a co-pilot. If they feel undermined or overlooked, they won't throw a tantrum. They'll simply distance themselves, recalibrate, and likely launch their own thing. Independence isn't a desire for them, it's a necessity. Financially, Cancer Roosters are strategic thinkers. They may have moments of emotional spending, especially on things that make their home or lifestyle more meaningful, but they always keep the big picture in mind. They're long-term planners who think in decades, not just quarters. Investments, savings, property, security. These things matter deeply to them, not just for personal gain, but for the stability of those they love. They want to create safety, both emotional and financial, and they understand that wealth is not just about accumulation, but about sustainability. They're the ones who will take a modest paycheck today if it means building something powerful tomorrow. In team settings, they often become the emotional backbone, the person who remembers birthdays, keeps the peace, and knows who needs a confidence boost. But they're also the one who won't let standards slip. They set the bar and demand others rise to meet it. If you're lazy, disorganized, or disloyal, you'll find yourself on the outside of their trust circle fast. But if you're consistent, honest, and hardworking, they'll champion you in ways that can change your career. They don't just want success for themselves, they want everyone they care about to succeed, too. Ultimately, Cancer Roosters are the kind of professionals who inspire loyalty, not just compliance. People don't just follow them because they have power, they follow them because they have purpose. Every meeting, every decision, every strategy session is infused with something deeper. A sense that the work matters, the people matter, and that success should be shared. They don't just build businesses, they build ecosystems. And they don't just lead teams, they shape lives. Dark sides, when emotions explode. The Cancer Rooster is a powerhouse of feeling, drive, and vision, but beneath that dynamic surface lies a tempestuous emotional terrain. Their strength and intensity are undeniable, but so is the volatility that comes with it. When they're balanced, they can be wise, warm, and unstoppable. But when that inner balance tips, when stress, rejection, or insecurity creeps in, what emerges can feel like a storm front rolling through a quiet town. It's not petty drama, it's emotional combustion, deep, raw, and sometimes destructive. Moodiness is a baseline feature, but for Cancer Roosters, it isn't as simple as being a little off. It's seismic. One harsh word, one cold shoulder, one broken promise, and they can shut down emotionally for days. And not in a visible tantrum kind of way. No, their withdrawal is silent, intense, and ice-cold. They won't always tell you what's wrong, but you'll feel it in every glance, every avoided conversation, every clipped reply. When they feel emotionally wounded, they go deep into themselves, sometimes reliving old traumas or disappointments that have nothing to do with the current situation. Their memory is long, and so is their emotional processing time. You can't force them to move on. They have to move through. Another shadow trait? Control. And not the kind that's easy to spot. Cancer craves emotional safety. Rooster craves order and excellence. Put these two together and you get someone who micromanages every detail of their environment in order to avoid feeling out of control inside. They may seem helpful, organized, and impressively hands-on, but scratch the surface, and you'll find a deep fear of chaos driving their every move. They'll tell you how to load the dishwasher correctly, insist on how the holidays should be celebrated, or try to manage your emotions like a project plan. And if something breaks that system, if someone cancels, forgets, or simply resists, it can feel like a personal betrayal to them. That's how tightly wound their sense of control is tied to their emotional safety. Pride is another tricky demon. The rooster in them thrives on respect and recognition. The Cancer in them wants to be valued for their loyalty and emotional labor. But when that recognition doesn't come, or worse, when someone critiques them, they can become defensive, arrogant, or downright dismissive. It's not that they think they're better than everyone else. Well, okay, sometimes they do. It's that their self-worth is so deeply interwoven with their work, their effort, and their care for others, that any perceived slight feels like an existential threat. They may lash out with sarcasm, or they may retreat into cold superiority. Either way, they're trying to armor their vulnerability with attitude. Even their greatest gifts, nurturing, loyalty, empathy, can take a dark turn. When they feel unappreciated or insecure, that nurturing becomes smothering. They might hover, overextend, or start making sacrifices no one asked for, just so they can later point to how much they've done for others. Their loyalty can turn possessive, demanding constant proof of reciprocation. And their empathy, when warped by fear, becomes manipulation. They'll guilt-trip you without realizing it. Or they'll say things like, "I just thought we were closer than this," when what they really mean is, "Please don't leave me. I don't know how to feel safe without you." The most complex and dangerous of their dark traits is emotional manipulation, but not the cartoon villain kind. It's subtle, often unconscious, and born not from malice but fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being replaced. When they feel these fears rising, they may pull emotional strings, make you feel bad for doing what's right for you, or expect you to intuit their needs without them ever articulating them. They don't always ask directly, they test. They withdraw to see if you'll chase. They hint, hoping you'll read their mind. And if you don't, the disappointment is deep, and the narrative becomes, "I give everything, and no one ever gives it back." What's the cure? Self-awareness. A lot of it. Cancer roosters need to learn to name their feelings without weaponizing them. To accept that not everything can be controlled. That love doesn't need to be earned with sacrifice. Therapy helps, especially with managing their past wounds and learning how to express needs without shame or performance. So do creative outlets, writing, art, dance, music, anything that gives their big emotions a non-destructive channel. And most of all, they need relationships with people who are emotionally literate, firm in their boundaries, but soft in their approach. If they don't address these shadows, they risk becoming prisoners of their own emotional intensity, constantly longing for connection, but pushing people away the moment they get close. But when they do the work, when they learn to sit with their feelings instead of acting from them, they become extraordinary. They become protectors who no longer fight everyone else to feel safe, but who learn to protect their own inner peace first. In the end, their dark sides aren't flaws to be ashamed of. They're signals that their heart is overwhelmed, their fears are activated, and their soul is crying out for balance. When they listen to those signals, without judgment, with intention, they don't just grow. They transform. Life purpose, building emotional legacy. For the Cancer Rooster, life isn't just about achievements, it's about meaningful achievements. They're not driven by fame or the desire to impress strangers. What they want, deep down, is to leave behind something that carries emotional weight. A home filled with laughter and history. A community that remembers their efforts. A partner, children, or even colleagues who say, "They made my life better." Their soul mission is rooted in impact, not optics. But they also want that impact to be felt, not necessarily broadcasted, but deeply recognized by the people who truly matter. For them, legacy is emotional architecture. Something you build from love, layer by layer, brick by heartfelt brick. Cancer roosters dream in permanence. They don't think in short-term goals, they think in chapters, dynasties, eras. This is someone who starts a journal hoping their grandchild will read it someday. Who plants a tree not just for shade, but so generations can sit under it. Their actions carry the weight of future memory. They want their efforts to outlive them, not through statues or headlines, but through influence, a family that stays close, a team that continues to thrive, a lesson that sticks with someone long after they've gone. And what fuels all this is not ego, but a kind of emotional responsibility. They feel called to contribute, to nurture something bigger than themselves, and to be remembered as someone who made people feel safe, inspired, or seen. Their purpose is deeply personal but always collective. They're rarely loners. Even if they go through solitary phases, their life mission involves other people. They're here to build with, not just for. A Cancer rooster may start a nonprofit, raise a family, write a memoir, lead a business, or even become a mentor. But the driving force is always the same. How can I create something that enriches the emotional fabric of others? They want to be remembered for their generosity, their courage to love fiercely, and their refusal to settle for shallow living. And yes, their rooster pride means they wouldn't mind a little applause for it, just as long as the applause feels genuine. Balance is the sole challenge of their journey. Cancer urges them to give, to nurture, to support, to protect. Rooster pushes them to achieve, to organize, to excel, to rise above. But their real power unfolds when they learn to receive with the same grace they give. When they realize that rest isn't laziness, that control isn't love, and that peace is just as valuable as progress. This is the journey. Learning that they don't have to earn their worth through service or sweat. They simply are worthy. When they hit that stride, when they know when to push and when to pause, they become the kind of person others instinctively trust. They become elders, mentors, legacy holders. They radiate groundedness. Recognition does matter to them, but not in the flashy, fame-seeking way. Cancer roosters crave meaningful acknowledgement. They don't want generic praise. They want someone to say, "I remember the way you helped me when I had nothing," or, "You made this feel like home," or, "Your leadership changed how I see myself." That's the gold. That's the emotional paycheck they're truly working for. When that recognition is missing, it stings. They may keep going, but their spirit starts to dim. They begin to question if their efforts are invisible, if their love is being used but not valued. That's when their rooster voice may get louder, not to show off, but to remind the world, "I'm doing something here that matters. Please see me." Ultimately, the life purpose of a Cancer rooster is to be a builder of emotional infrastructure. Not flashy, not shallow, but profound and enduring. They want to create something that holds other people, not just physically, but spiritually. A home that holds memories. A story that holds truth. A legacy that holds love. When they step into that role, authentically, humbly, and with full heart, they don't just succeed. They fulfill, and their impact echoes long after they've left the room. So, if you ever meet someone who seems to feel everything and do everything at once, who makes you feel safe and challenged, adored and held accountable, you might just be dealing with a Cancer born in the year of the rooster. Buckle up, it's going to be a powerful ride. They'll surprise you in the quietest and loudest ways. One minute they're cooking dinner with a playlist that makes you feel like you're in a movie, and the next they're offering a brutally honest piece of advice that leaves you speechless, but somehow grateful. They're the emotional multitaskers of the zodiac. Listening with empathy, planning your birthday 2 months early, texting you to drink more water, and managing their own career empire behind the scenes. You don't just experience them, you feel them. Deeply, unforgettably, fully. When you're in their orbit, you're going to be held to a higher standard, but not out of judgment. Out of love, Cancer roosters believe in the best version of you, sometimes even before you see it yourself. And they will push, protect, praise, and provoke you until you meet it. They'll hold you close when you're low and call you out when you're slacking. It's not an easy friendship, relationship, or collaboration, but it's one that will make you better, stronger, and more aware of what real connection feels like. You'll never wonder where you stand with a Cancer rooster for long. Their energy is too big for ambiguity. They will show you how they feel, through actions, consistency, and the kind of presence that can't be faked. If they love you, you'll know. If they're hurt, you'll feel it in the air. If they're proud of you, they'll say it like it's gospel. They don't hide behind walls, they build bridges. And if you cross those bridges with care, you'll find one of the richest, most rewarding bonds imaginable. But fair warning, this is not a relationship you coast through. You grow through it. You're not just signing up for affection, you're signing up for transformation. Because Cancer roosters will never let you stay small. They'll challenge your excuses, shatter your delusions, and gently, but firmly, pull you back toward the version of yourself you're meant to be. Their love, friendship, and leadership aren't light touches, they're full-on, immersive, life-shaping forces. So, if you've stumbled across someone who manages to be tender and tenacious, grounded and fierce, soft and unshakably strong, you're not imagining it. You've met a Cancer rooster. And no matter how long they stay in your life, one thing's for sure, you'll never be quite the same again. Want more insights like this? Hit that like button, subscribe, and dive into our other personality deep dives and astro character breakdowns. And don't forget to check out the links in the description for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes extras, and social media connections. Let's keep the stars talking.